Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 89. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to have an Eiscue team. Now Eiscue is probably one of the most famous gimmick Pokemon for having a gimmick that just doesn't really benefit it that much. I mean, Ice Face is a pretty neat ability in my opinion, where it's kind of like Mimikyu's Disguise, where the first physical hit that Eiscue takes, which is an important part of it, is completely negated and does 0 damage, and you can reactivate your Ice Face by setting up the snow. And this does make Eiscue very prone to special attacks, but whenever special attacks are not on the field, then Eiscue tends to be in a pretty good position, especially since in this generation we had the snow rework where it's no longer hail, it is snow, which not only damages not Pokemon that are not ice types, but also gives an inherent defense boost to ice type Pokemon. So starting off with our actual Eiscue, we are going to be trying to get off the belly drum set where we lose 50% of our HP and then we maximize our attack, and we're specific EV numbers so that it actually only takes about 51% of our HP. Since we are going to be running Cover Cloak to hopefully avoid fake outs and not like a Citrus Berry, because the Citrus Berry isn't helping as much because we're still a pretty frail Pokemon. So, and ideally what happens is once we get off the belly drum, we have used one of our other Pokemon to disable a Pokemon from attacking Eiscue, and then the other Pokemon that could attack Eiscue hits it with a physical attack to activate its Noise form. And in the Noise form, your speed goes up, which in Ice Face form, your speed is pretty low, so it's pretty important to get that Noise form off. But for whenever we're at max attack, we have the Ice Spinner, which is just a consistent ice-type damage move that also gets rid of the opponent's terrain. And we have the Flip Turn, just in case maybe we need water-type damage, but it also allows us to shift out of Eiscue into one of our other Pokemon. As if we don't want to go for the belly drum, we at least have like a slow pivot Pokemon to maybe bring in one of our other weathers on the dual weather team. And we are Terra Ghost on the Eiscue because it gives us a way to fully avoid fake outs and fighting type moves that we were previously weak to fighting type moves. So that way if two Pokemon are trying to attack into Eiscue with like a fighting type move and a normal type move, they flat out just don't hit Eiscue, and we can save its Ice Face for another turn hopefully. Up next we got Weavile, and Weavile is just a very consistent fast ice type Pokemon, as we're going to be using Triple Axle to hopefully deal a lot of ice type damage as it becomes 20 and then 40 and then 60 pace power in 3 hits. And there's a good number of Dragonites running around in the format right now with like loaded dice in order to beat other Focus Sash Pokemon, and then they get off their Scale Shot speed boost. But ideally with Weavile you can still be faster than the Dragonites even if they've gotten off a speed boost. And then with the Triple Axle, as long as they're not terroring, you should always be KOing them. Not to mention that we're a Dark type and we have the Stab knockoff in order to get rid of the opponent's items, and we have the Fake Out just because Fake Out is obviously really good in doubles, but it also gets these other Pokemon that maybe need a turn of setup a chance to do so. And then with the Pickpocket ability, if something brings Weavile all the way down to its Focus Sash in one hit, which we're kind of hoping it does because that's why we have the Focus Sash, but if it was a physical attacker, then we will steal the opponent's item with our Pickpocket ability, so we'll still have an item even when we're at 1 HP. Then in order to support Eiscue, we have the Abomasnow here, as we kind of need the Grass typing even though we're not using any Grass type moves. But you could definitely put on like Energy Ball or Giga Drain or something instead of Snowscape. I just figured it might be a little bit more useful to have Snowscape on the Abomasnow, since Abomasnow's weather is pretty important to it, and we are using our own dual weather here, so in case we bring in Pelipper, we can use Snowscape in order to set up the snow with Abomasnow. But Abomasnow, of course, is going to be hopefully throwing out the 100% accurate Blizzard in the snow, and then setting up the Aurora Veil for our Pokemon that need setup turns to live a little bit longer. And we are likely on the Abomasnow so that we can extend the duration of the Aurora Veil, and we're Terrafire so that we are resistant to things like Fire type moves and Steel type moves that we were previously weak to. Next up, we've got Pelipper, and this is a pretty tricky Pelipper set as we're already using the Focus Sash on Weavile and we're using the Covert Cloak on Eiscue, so there's not necessarily an item that Pelipper wants. Like, we maybe could have given it Weather Rock, but for this strategy, I decided to go with an Eject Button Pelipper so that maybe we could lead something like Eiscue and a Abomasnow so that we set up the snow, and then if a Pokemon uses an attack into the Abomasnow slot, or we're expecting an attack to go into there, we can swap in Pelipper, who will set up the rain, get the Eject Button, and then swap Abomasnow back in at the end of the turn so that maybe Eiscue could get multiple uses of the Ice Face depending on the situation in one turn. But our Pelipper is going to be running Air Slash just because it gives us the 30% chance to flinch, and we are using Dual Weather, so it's not as consistent to be using Hurricane on our Pelipper, but we do have that Weather Ball, which is hopefully Water type because of Stab, but maybe we can also use it as an Ice type move whenever we have Abomasnow so set up, and we have Wide Guard in order to protect our team from spread attacks in order to help our setup mods, and we just have Protect because maybe we need to save Pelipper for a turn, or because Pelipper is holding the Eject button, we don't want it to be immediately eject buttoned out. And we're Terra Grass on the Pelipper so that we're not getting put to sleep by powder moves, most notably. Next up we have our Caledon, and our Caledon of course is a pretty key rain component for a lot of rain teams in this format. I just realized that I never changed our Caledon's Terra, so pretend that Terra never existed that you saw previously because it didn't. But our Caledon is going to be using the Electro Shot for whenever we have the rain mode up so that we can get good electric type damage, and then hopefully dishing out a absolute nuke of a Draco Meteor once we're at +1, and then decreasing our special attack down to -1 once we've used Draco Meteor. We also have Flash Cannon for consistent steel type damage, and to help against the special attackers that Eiscue can't quite deal with, we also have the Snarl to perhaps lower the special attack of Pokemon that aren't super heavy special attackers so that Eiscue can deal with them. And then we're Assault Vest so that we can take special attacks on our Caledon, and we are Stamina so that a Pokemon basically has to try and KO us in one hit if they're a physical attacker, because we'll keep building up Stamina defense boost. And we're Fairy on the Caledon like we've always been, it's just so we are immune to Dragon type moves that we weren't previously weak to, but we were weak to Fighting type moves, which now we resist with Fairy. And lastly, we have the return of Blastoise, who we haven't used since all the way at the beginning. We got Blastoise back at it again, and this is quite a different Blastoise set, where instead of Iron Defense Body Press, we are going to be running the Shell Smash Blastoise with the White Herb in order to get rid of our defense drops, and then throwing out massive Water Spouts, which is the same as Eruption, but there's not as many Water Spout Pokemon in this format as there are Eruption Pokemon. But the idea is that with Blastoise's Rain Dish and us using Rain, obviously, we can restore Blastoise's health quite a bit whenever we're getting the setup turn, or we've faked out with Weavile in order to try and get out the setup turn, and we have a lot of health left on Blastoise. But in case we don't have a lot of health left and we've gotten off the Shell Smash, we also have the Muddy Water option, which is still pretty good. And we are Terra Water on the Blastoise just to further boost the power of our water type moves, hopefully getting rid of like Fire, Steel, and Fighting types that our Ice types can't beat. So yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Alright, so first up we have an opposing Rain team, but they also have the option to go for the Mouse Ape lead or the Mouse Archaludon lead in order to get their stamina procs. So the opponent leads their Archaludon and their Mousehold, and we lead our Weavile and our Eiscue here, and we fake out the Mousehold because I'm hoping that the Archaludon will go for a move either into Weavile that will bring Weavile down to its Focus Sash, or it'll go for a physical attack into Eiscue, probably being the Body Press, or Eiscue can take the attack. But they do in fact go for the Body Press into Eiscue, which means that we are going to go from Ice Face form to Noise form, and we get off the Belly Drum with Eiscue. And Eiscue is now faster, but I still Protect because I want to get rid of the Mousehold, because the Mousehold is probably faster. So we knock that off, and we catch the Body Press from the Archaludon there, and they swap into Pelipper, seeing that their Mousehold was about to go down. But we get the knock off into Pelipper, and because Eiscue is now faster than Archaludon, we get the Ice Spinner into Archaludon, and I would be willing to bet that that critical hit does not matter. But they bring in Sinistcha here, and they Terra Fairy Rage Powder, perhaps to get off something with Pelipper into Eiscue, but we double the Sinistcha slot, and I flip turn the Sinistcha, which doesn't quite KO it, but now we get to bring in Abomasnow, which gets rid of the Pelipper's Rain, so Pelipper has to cycle out and then cycle back in order to bring back the Rain. But at this point, we're still pressuring with Weavile, even though Weavile doesn't have the Focus Sash, and even though Sinistcha is going for the Machi Gotcha, we have Abomasnow Terra of fire, just in case the Pelipper went for a hurricane into a bomb of snow. We were still good, but they decide to bring back the rain, and the opponent actually quits here, seeing as we still have all of our Pokemon. Next out, we have a team where they seem to have Camo as maybe their central piece, as once the Camo maybe gets off a Clangersoul and activates its Throat Spray, they can use the Florges in order to Symbiosis an item onto Camo. But the Sneasler, of course, is a really big threat to half of our team, because half of our team is Ice types, and another one of them is a Steel type, so that's actually a little bit more than half now that I think about it. But the opponent starts with Sneasler and Incineroar, and we start with Eiscue and Abomasnow, so they get to intimidate us down, but we immediately swap into Pelipper here in order to set up the rain, and they do in fact fake out the Eiscue, but Eiscue does not take any damage from it, and we activate Noise Form as they close combated into Pelipper, which Pelipper resist. And because Sneasler close combated the Pelipper's eject button activates, so we get to go into our Caledon here, so we're kind of forcing the Sneasler to be in a bit of an awkward scenario where it has two Pokemon that it wants to attack, and it kind of has to correctly predict which one it wants to attack, but it's also difficult for Incineroar to try and remove a Pokemon right now, because even though it has Fire-type moves into Eiscue, we have the Rain up, which will weaken the base power of the Flare Blitz if it was to go into Eiscue, or we could just bring back in Abomasnow and reactivate the Eiscue's Ice Face so that it is less likely to get KO'd this turn. We just flip turn into Incineroar here, so we bring it back in Pelipper in order to maybe threaten Incineroar, and they bring in Amoonguss and they protect Sneasler, so we tried to Air Slash into Sneasler, but we get the Electro Shot off with our Caledon, and we do at least some damage into the Amoonguss, and Amoonguss goes for Rage Powder this turn as Dire Claw comes down to Pelipper, and they do get the poison off of the Dire Claw, which is a bit unfortunate because now Pelipper's going to die at the end of the turn, and we'll lose our rain here. Well, we do in fact get to Draco Meteor the Amoonguss, which is going to take it out, and Pelipper is taken out by the poison here, as now Eiscue returns to the field, and Sneasler decides to protect here, and we protect Eiscue, as I wanted to try an Electro Shot into the Sneasler, but it looks like it would have been pretty fury for us to just swap in our Caledon for the Abomasnow and then attack with Eiscue. But now we go Terra Ghost Eiscue to hopefully draw the Sneasler's hit, which we do. We get the Electro Shot into Sneasler, but Sneasler is Focus Sash, so it gets to live on 1 HP. As Dragonite goes for the Scale Shot into our Caledon, but we're Stamina our Caledon, so this is just going to be increasing our defense. Unless it crits us, which it does in fact crit us on one of the Scale Shots, maybe a little bit unluckily, but the rest of them are not going to crit, thankfully. And we protect Eiscue here to maybe draw the Sneasler attack. We do draw it, and Scale Shot, as long as it does not crit again, is going to be taken by the Arcaladon, and we just get to Flash Cannon away Dragonite. Now, Incineroar returns to the field in order to intimidate Eiscue, and they fake out our Caledon so that our Caledon can't move. And they try Air Clawing it, maybe for some reason, in case they expected like an Abomasnow switch in there, I guess. But now we get to flip turn off of Sneasler to bring in Abomasnow, and at this point the Incineroar really cannot touch Eiscue once we bring it back and reset its Ice Face, but it especially can't touch our Caledon, because we could just click Draco Meteor into Incineroar, and as long as Incineroar doesn't crit us, we'll be good. Here we have what looks to be a dual starter team, as they have both Quaquaval and the Skeledirge, but they can also just be Kilowattrel Wind Power, with the Shiftry being Wind Rider and Whimsicott being a really consistent Tailwind setter. The opponent starts with Kilowattrel and Dugtrio, so deciding not to set up their Tailwind, as we just use Weavile to triple Axle into Kilowattrel, not caring about its Focus Sash or its Covert Cloak if it had that, and the Iron Head into Weavile, which brings it down to the Sash, but we get to steal the Dugtrio's Life Orb, so it doesn't actually look like it takes any Life Orb damage there, and now that Weavile is on 1 health, we can only actually get off 1 attack with Weavile with the Life Orb, because it'll kill Weavile, but we get up the Shell Smash with Blastoise, which is perhaps the most important thing, as Shiftry comes in, and I decide to swamp in Pelipper here, and we protect Blastoise just in case they went for a fake out, and they did in fact fake out Pelipper, but now we get eject buttoned back out into Weavile here, and Weavile is going to pressure with fake out into Shiftry in case Shiftry was something that could make it faster than Blastoise. Not that I think it would be, but we maybe get a Focus Sash on Shiftry is actually the reason I think I did that. But we Terra Water, and we get off the Water Spell, which is able to defeat both mons here, and seeing that they only have Skeledirge in the back and we have 2 water types on the field, we're good to go. Here we've got a pretty offensive team, as they got Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Dragonite, or Caledon, and the possibly Final Gambit monkey here, who I'm not quite sure how Final Gambit interacts with the Ice Face. I would assume since Final Gambit is a physical attack that it would not do any damage to Eiscue on its Ice Face, and Annihilate would just end itself. So there's a little bit of a benefit of the Ice Face that I really wasn't expecting to come up today, if that is true. But we swap in Eiscue and Weavile here as the opponent swaps in Incineroar and Ursaluna, and we just go for the Fake Out into Ursaluna, seeing that it was the big damage piece, and they go for Fake Out into Weavile, but Weavile is faster, so we got off our Fake Out first, and even if they faked out Eiscue, we are the Covert Cloak, so they would be doing us a favor here, breaking our Ice Face, and we get off the Belly Drum with Eiscue, so that way we could guaranteed be faster than Ursaluna, but Ursaluna thankfully just goes for the Vacuum Wave, as they do Flare Blitz into Eiscue, which is going to break the Ice Face, and that's kind of what I was betting on happening, is that Incineroar was going to attack Eiscue first, hopefully, because once we activate our Noise form, we were then faster than the Ursaluna, whereas when we were in Ice Face form, we were probably not faster than it, since this is a Tailwind team. But that doesn't matter, since they wanted to use Vacuum Wave to try and pick off Weavile anyways, but we get to take out Ursaluna, which is a pretty big piece for them, and we swap in a Bomb of Snow so that we can get off our Ice Face form, and we go Terra Ghost to maybe dodge a Fighting type move, and we do in fact dodge the Close Combat, and they go for the Flare Blitz again, but that breaks our Ice Face again, and we flip turn the Incineroar, which is going to take it out, and now we get Weavile back on the field to pressure a Fake Out into whatever their Backmon was, but they decided to not reveal whatever the Backmon is, as they just give up the game now. And lastly, we have a game against a somewhat strange team here, as they have the Sunflora, which is a Pokemon I don't think we've seen at all during the 128 Teams Challenge. That is, in fact, a Solar Powermon, but they don't have any Sun, is what it looks like, except for maybe Sunflora setting up the Sun for itself, and then Ceruledge, perhaps? So the opponent leads Sunflora and Dragonite, and we lead Eiscue and Pelipper here. And I actually kind of forgot at the start of this battle that Eiscue is Eject Button and not Focus Sash, so I make some maybe kind of not great plays here, based on the fact that Pelipper could just get swapped out. But they immediately Extreme Speed into Eiscue, which activates its Noise form, and we get the Ice Spinner into Dragonite to try and deal super effective damage into it, but we at least break a multi-scale from the way things look, and Sunflora sets up the Sun for itself and takes the damage, and we just take out the Sunflora with the Air Slash as Dragonite decides to go for the Dragon Dance here. We swap in our Caledon to maybe take the Extreme Speed, and we do, so we get a defense boost activated, and Heracross goes for the Facade because it is a Gutsmon, but that forces us to swap into the Eiscue with our Eject Button there. Now we bring back in Pelipper in order to reset the Rain for our Caledon, as Dragonite actually decides to reveal Protect, and they just clicked Facade into the Eiscue again. But this allows us to get off an Electro Shot into Heracross, doing big damage to it, and Heracross's days are kinda numbered here because Eiscue can go Terra Normal just to maybe dodge the Extreme Speed from the Dragonite, but the Extreme Speed are Caledon anyways, so we just get to Ice Spinner, take out the Heracross, and Draco Meteor is going to absolutely destroy Dragonite here, and their last Pokemon is our Caledon, which is a little difficult for us to deal with, as we can try Belly Drumming with Eiscue, but they decide to correctly target down the Eiscue as the threat here, and it might have been better for me to protect Eiscue on that turn and then snarl the Archelodon, but I didn't want the Archelodon going for like Iron defenses and then try and click Body Press. But now they go for Body Press into Archelodon. We try to go for the Draco, but we miss the Draco, but the 2-hit KO from the Blizzard is definitely going to be enough to take out the Duraludon, despite the fact that it is probably an Eviolite. So yeah, that was the dual Eiscue weather team, and this team touches a lot of what's popular right now, but there are definitely some Pokemon that, because of our lack of type diversity and the fact that we're using mostly Ice type and mostly Water type move, that we have to use specific Pokemon like Weavile and Archelodon in order to get in the damage that we want on Pokemon like Rotom Wash was a Pokemon that I didn't really have a very eventful game against, but it does check a good number of the Pokemon on this team. Which is another reason that I said before about putting grass damage on a Bomb Snow to give you a little bit more of type diversity. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things would help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.